welcome to another edition of Trader Talk TV. Today we've got Ben Antier, who's the co-founder and CEO of Publica. Ben, how are you?
Hey, Kieran, I'm great. Thanks for having me on. How are you doing?
I'm very well. I think there's a massive thunderstorm in the background. It's great. You know, it's the ad tech gods are angry today.
This is going to be epic. I love it.
Ben's on today, and we're going to talk about CTV and specifically around the CTV server-side ad insertion, which is also known as SSAI, which is actually a very important piece of the CTV ecosystem, which is never really talked about. And we have Ben here today to sort of give us an overview of that technology and an overview of the company he runs and has started, Publica. Ben, talk about a little bit about that. And obviously, today's session is virtual, but that's fine. We love doing virtual trader talks. So before we jump into this topic, Ben, just give us an overview of Publica do, because it's a company that we've heard lots of via your colleague and our ad tech friend, Paul Gubbins. So it'd be good to get sort of an overview of how you guys started and what problems you're solving in the ecosystem.
Absolutely. So to put it simply, Publica is a connected TV ad server. So I think that what I love about this session is that we're going to get into the nitty gritty, right? Because what I mean by ad server and connected TV ad server in today's world, I think it's quite different from what a traditional ad server, means for most people. So I'm happy to dive right into some technical stuff if you're ready.
That's what our audience loves. They want to eat this.
All right.
So let's go straight into the technical piece.
Let me share my screen and let's dive right into it. So.
Oh, lovely.
All right, it works. I love it. So, a traditional ad server for most people is about delivering direct campaigns, right? It's a campaign manager. In connected television, an ad server, a modern ad server, actually encompasses a lot more than just delivering direct campaigns. And so what I was thinking is maybe walking you guys through a user journey, right? A viewer, someone turns on their TV, watches picks a show, what happens, right? Technically speaking, behind the scenes. Yeah. Because as I walk you through that path, I think I'll try to make it clear where Publica is involved and how all those pieces come together to help publishers monetize their inventory. And really one thing that I should specify is we always have two things in mind in everything we do. One is maximizing revenue for the publisher. Yeah. That's our number one goal in everything we do. And two is delivering a TV user experience. So that means for a viewer, they're watching TV. We don't want them to think that this is, this is digital and I'm getting pre-rolls. No, none of that crap. It's a TV ad break that we're delivering. So all the components that we've built are to ensure those two things. So let's start with the beginning. So here I've got a beautiful TV, right? And I'm a viewer. I turn it on. I pick a show. An application in CTV is really a pretty simple thing. It's essentially two things. It's a video library, right? It's a bunch of videos that you can browse through and eventually pick one once you find one. And if you're on Netflix, sometimes the browsing takes longer than the actual watching, but that's another problem. And the second aspect is a video player, right? So once you pick the video, a video player is going to deliver a stream to your device. And so the first thing that happened is actually a request from the TV to what we call an SSAI server. And so the SSAI server, which we're going to be talking a lot more about, has one simple job. It's to deliver a stream of content plus ads to the TV, right? And so first thing that an SSAI server does is go fetch the content, right? So first you have to be sure that you're going to be receiving the content, and I'm getting used to this, so I'm probably going to be making some horrible mistakes as I go. But
great.
So this arrow is the next one, right? It's content stream delivered to the SSAI. SSAI doesn't wait, sends it back to the TV, right? We don't want any latency. That's part of the user experience, right? As you turn on your TV, there's no spinning wheels in TV, so we get rid of that. Then what the SSAI does is it looks for something called ad markers. So an ad marker is basically just a signal within the content stream that says, hey, there's an ad break coming up in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? And at that point, the SSAI, its role is to go fetch an ad. So it goes through what we call an inventory router. So an inventory router is basically the service that defines which ad server is going to return an ad. Because in CTV, there's almost always an inventory share. The programmer gets to monetize part of the ad breaks, and then either the app owner, in the case of an AVOD app like Zumo, Philo, Pluto, all those guys, gets to monetize the rest, or in some cases the device manufacturer gets a piece of the content, right? So the router is the one that applies those rules that says, okay, 2 minutes out of every hour is going to go to one ad server, and then the other minutes are going to go to the other ad server. Right?
Yeah.
Please stop me if I'm going too fast or if this is not clear. But so there's basically a choice that needs to be made here. So the ad server then, this is kind of the more traditional sense of the ad server. It's also, you can think of it as a mediation layer. So it's the place where publishers are going to put in all of their demand and all of their business rules in order to define which ad is going to get to serve in real time for each particular user. And so let's start with the demand, right? There's usually 2 types of demand. You've got direct or programmatic. So direct campaign, so that's the traditional campaign manager. That's also something that Publica offers. So, I'll explain at the end, but obviously everything in the Publica colors is provided by Publica. And then there's the programmatic partners, right? SSPs. So today we live in a world where publishers no longer work with just one supply side platform. Header bidding has come in display, but has now arrived to CTV. And that means that publishers understand that you can make more revenue, you can get better CPMs by working with multiple SSPs and putting them in competition with each other, right? So each SSP then has a relationship with DSPs. It could be, multiple DSPs work with multiple SSPs, obviously, and all of these guys connect to the advertiser. So what Publica does and what a modern ad server does is take all of that logic, right, and unifies it here. And so here is what we call the unified auction. The unified auction basically means that instead of a waterfall where I'm going to call direct, if I don't get an ad, I'm going to call SSP1. If I don't get an ad, I'm going to call, no, we get rid of that and we unify all that. And we base the decisioning based on price and business rules. So it means it could very well mean that a deal ID, for example, a PMP and a programmatic PMP can have a higher priority over direct. It could mean that it's all based on price, right? So whoever has the highest CPM wins. So that's a really important part. And then I guess the last part is bringing in data and measurement. Those are kind of the 2 most critical things that any CTV publisher is always in need of. One is being able to target, forecast, and report against audiences. So that's where data marketplaces come in. We, for example, work very closely with LiveRamp on that front, where we can bring in LiveRamp, first and third party data. And then measurement. So this is where, publishers work with any measurement company. We see obviously Nielsen very involved today, where with things like Nielsen DAR and measurement that are integrated within the ad server in order to make sure that no matter where the ad comes from out of all of these different possibilities, that they're all going to end up measured in the right way by the publisher. And then basically, the other way around is pretty simple. Once an ad server is determined, okay, I've found an ad break of 2 minutes, and I know that these ads are non-duplicate, non-competitive, they're ready to go. The ad gets returned to the SSAI server through the router, and then back to the TV and inserted to the viewer. I'll stop there. I just presented a whole lot, but really, this is what a modern ad server looks like.
So that is it's quite a lot to ingest there. Particularly for people who are not au fait with the CTV ecosystem. So just let's take a couple of backward steps, right? I like what you started. Let's just talk about the SSAI, right? Server side ad insertion. Is that right? Would that be the right day? Yeah. Okay. How important is that in sort of the CTV ecosystem? I'm just curious. How important is that to a publisher? is that the sort of like the glue that glues a lot of the stuff together? So I'm looking at all the different parts in green that you have offerings in. So you've got the SSAI, inventory router, ad server, and direct campaigns, and we can talk about those specifically afterwards. But that specific piece of technology, the SSAI, how important is that in the CTV ecosystem? Because I don't often hear it being discussed at length. Particularly, everybody just talks about the DSP and SSP, and that's it. Like, but just spend a bit of time talking about how important that is to CTV publishers.
Yeah, it's incredibly important, and there's a few reasons, but I think maybe the best way to explain that is to compare with its alternative, client-side ad insertion, right? Because this whole acronym is so complex because there is an alternative, right, which is client-side. And if you want, what I could do is start by walking you through how client-side ad insertion works, compare that to how server-side ad insertion works, and I think you'll quickly understand why it's so critical to use that.
Let's do that.
Okay, so I have I think a diagram ready right here. Okay, so let's start with the web, right? The web, I think people are more familiar with, and the web is very often, 99% probably client-side ad insertion. So what that means is the code to deliver content and ads lives on the client, and the client is basically here the browser, right? So you open up Google Chrome, you go to a website, there's code within the page that you load that is going to do a couple things. First, it's going to usually load an SDK, right? So this component, which is basically a library that is going to interface with the video player to deliver the video stream and the ads. So the SDK, usually what it's going to do is it's going to fetch the video from the video library, the content that needs to be played, right? So it's going to, once the user hits play, there's a stream that's fetched directly from a CDN server, and it's delivered right to the page. The SDK, what it does is it determines, for example, if there's a pre-roll, it's going to send a request to an ad server from the browser again, right? So the call initiates directly from the page to the ad server. The ad server usually responds with, in web, it's very often VPAID, right? So it's its own code. So again, there's client-side code that's even returned by the ad server to run on the page to measure things like, viewability, everything that a VPAID measures, which is a whole mess. Anybody that's been in the web video space knows how much of a pain VPAID can get. And then there are things that happen like waterfall. So if this VPAID for whatever reason errors out, times out, then the SDK sends a secondary request to another ad server and gets it back this way, right? So everything happens around on what we call the client. It happens on the browser.
Yeah.
Now the challenge is if you're on a TV, there is no client to, for example, read a JavaScript. It's that simple. There is no in most, and first of all, you have to imagine that CTV is an incredibly fragmented environment, right? So whereas web, you can just put a JavaScript SDK everywhere. You could get away with mobile because you really have, iOS and Android. You have two environments. Now, if we were to create client-side SDKs for every TV, we need to do one for Roku, for Fire TV, for Samsung, for LG, for Vizio, for TCL. So it would be just a nightmare. And the TVs aren't designed, just purely not designed to run this much client-side code. So the alternative is the SSAI insertion, right? And what that means is now the interface between the TV and a server is very simple. It's basically the TV saying, I need to play a video, give me back a video. That's all it does, right? And then the SSAI, I can walk through this one more time after, but the SSAI, it delivers a stream of video to the TV. So it's basically, the reason why it's so important is because we are in an environment that isn't designed to run client-side code, to put it simply.
And the SSAI is connected to the CDN, then it pulls video from the CDN or CMS, and then it makes a decision where the ads will appear in that content. So there'll be like a marker, as you say.
Yeah.
All sort of you know, all the ads are kind of done server side as opposed to loading on the actual TV, which doesn't have the software or has a client side browser that kind of loads that stuff. It's all done via the SSAI. Is that a piece of technology then that a lot of the you know, TV manufacturers or device owners would have themselves, or is this sort of an independent piece of tech? Like, so like, because
you know, that's a great question. So it's very often an independent piece of tech, and you said something that's exactly right. Is that this, what I call playback server here, this is really a CDN.
Yeah.
Because what, you know, here what you're doing is delivering a video to a device. And so it's no surprise that the companies that dominate the SSAI world today are CDNs. They're companies that's what they know how to do really well, is deliver video to devices. So you've got Amazon, for example, you've got Google with their DAI, right? Those are companies that they know exactly how to deliver a video from the cloud to a device.
Yeah.
How the challenge is, and why a company like Publica exists, is because delivering a video to a device, that's kind of the easy part now, right? Publica, for example, we use AWS, we use CloudFront to deliver, you know, we didn't reinvent the CDN world.
Yeah.
What these companies aren't familiar with is this whole side of the industry. Because
which is the ad stack side, basically, the ad execution,
exactly. Because if you think about it, you know, five years ago, the biggest publishers in the space, it was all direct sold, right, in video for especially for, you know, the early connected TV set-top box. In some cases, it was even given away for free, but there were at most, let's say, 200 ad campaigns running on those, you know, even on the most premium publishers. Today, with programmatic advertising at Publica, for example, we have 250,000 different creatives running every single day. And so that means that you've got, you know, we have 31 SSPs integrated with the platform. So, and each of them is working with dozens of DSPs. So we've got a scale and a variety of ads that's unprecedented. And if you didn't build an SSAI server that's able to, first of all, handle that scale, right? To be able to transcode that many ads, that's a very different problem than delivering a video to the page, but also recognize the ads that you've already transcoded so that you're not purposely or eternally sending videos back to a transcode queue. And I can talk a little bit about transcoding after, but those are the things that are really important in today's world to make SSAI work with the programmatic ecosystem. And that's why we're one of the first companies to come from the programmatic world, enter into SSAI, and bring with that all of the baggage and knowledge that we've built over the years in the programmatic world.
So let's just say that, let's talk about an example, right? Because it's good to put an example of a publisher in here. So let's just talk about Pluto. I don't know if they're a client of yours or not, but maybe they are. They would look to you to, so they might have, you know, CDNs, as you say, are pretty easy to set up. You can use AWS and you can basically connect it to you know, a video server, whatever software they're running on the system. But if it's AVOD or you know, ad supported CTV, then they want ads in there. Like, so Pluto is very much ad supported. Yep. So they would use your SSAI to sort of connect up to the ecosystem. So let's talk about the other parts, because it's quite interesting. So you've got, I almost think that you guys are modular. Like, it feels like you can plug and play certain things in, which is one of the questions I was going to ask you. But let's just talk about the ad ecosystem initially, right? Yep. So they come to you and say, look, we need an ecosystem. We need a stack, right? We need you to make this work. So you would insert the SSAI, but then you could work with various parts of their systems as well. Like, so if they had their own ad server or their own SSP, So you have an ability to work with multiple vendors in the space. You compete with most, but you don't, but also you partner with others.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, we have a very modular approach to everything we do. So one thing at Publica that we always say is we are never going to tell a publisher that you can or cannot work with another provider, right? Our vision and the way we operate is we are going to create value within any existing stack however we can, right? So if a publisher has a problem with an SSAI, we're more than happy to just bring that component. If a publisher is perfectly happy with their SSAI and their ad server, we can just bring the unified auction component. So we have anywhere from, the different boxes I showed earlier, we can it's very modular approach, because at the end of the day, we're a startup, and all that matters is that we create value, right? And that's way more important to us than anything else at this point. And so that's why we take that approach. So yeah, to take the example of Pluto, they have, and actually for them, they have multiple SSAI providers, because a lot of their programmers, the programmer is the one that usually brings the SSAI to the table, right? So they're each different content owner is going to have an SSAI solution, and that's going to connect into the Pluto ad server. Just like here, we have two options. Basically, each the Pluto ad server would be one of those two options, and then the other one would be the programmer's ad server.
The programmer, just sorry, Ben. The programmer would be who? Just for a novice, like who?
Like AMC, Viacom, Discovery.
Oh, I see. Right. Okay. Yes. Okay.
All the guys that bring content really to.
Right. So they're apps within the Pluto ecosystem, effectively.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Very good. And in terms of the programmatic piece, because you say like you've come the other way, right? You've come from the programmatic world to build this infrastructure layer that makes programmatic possible. Let's talk a bit about that, actually, because obviously this is a part of the business programmatic CTV that's kind of exploded over the last 2 years. So let's talk about how you get that into the system, because there's a lot of complication by the looks of it. There's a lot of jumps there. You've got ad server, inventory router, SSAI, and then you've got all of the back-end programmatic ecosystem like DSPs and SSPs. How do you make all that work together? Because that's quite a complex ecosystem in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I don't think there's a particular diagram for this one. So maybe I'll just go back to one of the previous.
Yeah, that's what I like. That's innovating on the fly.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's, at Publica, we started with video header bidding. That's how we entered into the space. So we saw the opportunity to take the concept of header bidding and bring it to the CTV world.
Right.
And to this day, we still work with a number of clients, actually, and this is what this slide is, that use Publica only for header bidding and use one of the big ad servers like Freewheel or GAM for their direct sold and everything else. And so we learned a lot by doing that. Basically, so today we have 31 SSPs that we're connected to, and a lot of publishers come to us because they currently work with one SSP, maybe two, through a waterfall. It's not optimized. It creates latencies. And most of all, it creates UX issues because they're unable to do things like creative deduplication, competitive separation. So when we started, what we focused on was, first of all, getting rid of the waterfall, right? So that's where the concept of a unified auction came in, where we basically run an open RTB auction between SSPs to make sure that we get the highest yielding ads, right, back to the publisher. And then the second one is around creative recognition, understanding what are the ads that are coming back, so that we can identify, even if it comes back from SSP1 and SSP2 and two different DSPs, and the ads are trafficked in two different buy-side ad servers, we can still identify that there are two car ads, for example.
Yeah.
From there, we can say, well, the publisher, we give them business rules, right? So we can say, okay, as a publisher, I don't want competing brands in the same ad break. Just kind of everybody wants that. But then some of our publishers get a lot more creative and say, I don't want two insurance ads within 5 minutes of each other, for example. And so we apply all those rules. And that's really what's very difficult to do, and what has set us apart from everybody else is our ability to understand all that and to give publishers the ability to basically let the algorithms do their job to maximize yield, but at the same time take into consideration any input from the business rules.
So you have logic built in around the way that ads are executed on the publisher's inventory, effectively.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's interesting, the creative control. I've always, you know, obviously you can't just run ads in the TV, like just you know, there has to be some creative control. I mean, is that all part of the process as well? Like, I mean, I imagine that is something you need to do. Is that something you guys offer, or how does that work? That's
absolutely.
Question. I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, so it's a big part of everything that we do, right? It's we give as much control to the publisher. So it starts with you know, the basic we call them brand safety rules, but it's essentially block lists so that you can prevent specific advertisers or specific categories from running. Pretty much every single one of our clients has rules in place to say, I don't want gambling or guns or, you know, whatever. That's really the basic stuff. But what's interesting is that it's actually, most companies struggle to enforce these rules, because if it's properly declared, you know, in an open RTB bid response, if you get the advertiser domain, if you get the category, that's easy, right? You can set up rules to say, well, I don't want this ad. What's difficult is when it's not declared properly. And there's actually a lot of the inventory today that's not classified properly, particularly, to be honest, the advertisers that are a bit, you know, that would get blocked, right? Because they don't, there's no incentive for them to do that. So what we've done is we've built additional logic, like logo recognition within the creatives itself, like media file analysis to look at the media file sizes and audio, and we do all that to say, okay, well, we're, you know, 95% sure that this is an ad that is part of a certain category. So in order to be safe, we'll block it. And this is also a very important part about server-side ad insertion and, you know, modern CTV ad serving. Our mindset is there should be, we don't want to take any gambles. We're never going to say, oh, we're always going to err on the side of caution, right? Because we can't send back an ad to TV that's going to break the user experience, right? That's going to turn into a black screen. We also can't, you know, so what we do is we block as much as needed server side, and then we give publishers access to all that information, reporting and live analytics and real-time alerting, all that stuff, so that they can see what's happening and then make decisions on, okay, I'm actually fine with letting this ad through, but we're never gonna, you know, take a chance of delivering an ad that shouldn't be delivered to any environment. So, and again, that needs to be done server side because there's no client side component to take care of it afterwards.
Okay. There's a lot of talk about the SSAI being a large reason for ad fraud in the CTV space.
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean, if you've all this level of control and logic, why would that be an issue? Because obviously we hear about, you know, ad fraud becoming a massive problem in CTV because of the high CPMs and obviously access to specific content. So just walk us through that, Ben, because that's obviously an important topic.
Yeah, absolutely. So very important topic. Very important, I would say, because it is undermining the credibility of the most premium inventory that we have in advertising technology, where it shouldn't. This is a problem that we can get rid of, and if we do, and when we do, there's going to be a massive inflow of advertiser dollars that are going to come into the CTV space. So, you know, not only important because we don't like fraud, and from an ethical perspective, but also just from a very financial perspective, it's slowing us down as an industry, and we need to solve it. So let's think about that for a second. How does first of all, why is there fraud, right? And how does it work? So the reason is simple, right? Is a bad actor wants to make money in the easy way. And how is money made in ad tech? That's kind of the fundamental here. And money is made, particularly in video and CTV, almost exclusively when an impression pixel is fired, right? People are paid, whether it's a publisher, an ad tech provider, people are paid based on CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions, right? So if you're a fraudster, all you really have to do is figure out how to get impression beacons fired and somehow get involved in this chain, right? So here what happened, and one thing to clarify is that in SSAI and in server-side environments, the impression beacons are fired by the SSAI server, right? Because the SSAI server delivers a video here, and when it does, it's going to send impression beacons to everybody in the chain. So this one server is responsible for telling the ad server, okay, I delivered an ad, telling all the SSPs involved, hey, your ad was delivered, telling all the DSPs your ads were delivered, the advertiser, and even the verification provider. So now that you see that, if you're someone that's interested in fraud, where in the value chain are you going to try to intervene, right? I think that's pretty straightforward. It's right here, right? If you can insert yourself here, or even better, spoof an SSAI server altogether, now you're in control of the billing notification. So it's like if you can just print receipts, right, for the whole ecosystem. And so that's why a lot of the fraud has been centered around SSAI, because people understand that all the money that's flowing in this industry is based on beacons that are fired by one server, and that becomes the vulnerability in the chain. So
how do you stop that then? What's the remedy?
Yeah, so there's a lot of work happening right now at the IAB, and we're actually leading some of that charge with companies like Index, but Google is also very involved in the process. And really, the one thing that you want to prevent is SSAI spoofing, right? So the problem is not that an SSAI server like Publica is going to get hacked, and we're perfectly in control of that. There's security measures around that. The problem is that a fraudster is going to set up a fake SSAI server, right? And so the main way to solve this this problem is to create a way for the SSAI server to authenticate itself with all of the entities downstream. And in security, one of the very common processes cryptographic security. So basically the concept that there is going to be a signature that only the sending party can create and only the receiving party can read, right?
Right.
And so the concept of a public and private key. So here what we're doing, and this is my great key, we're basically saying the SSAI server is going to encrypt a signature with a private key before it sends the request to everybody else. And at the same time, it's going to publish a public key here that all of these entities here are going to be able to receive and go fetch. So here you've got
they'll have the public key, and then when a impression is served via the SSAI server, that private key goes out, so that matches the public key, and then you're obviously got a cryptographic match as opposed to just a random signal which can be usurped and hijacked by scumbag ad frauders.
Exactly. I mean, that's pretty much exactly right. You use the private key to encrypt the signature and you use the public key to decrypt it. So that if I'm an advertiser, now I know that this is the Publica signature and I trust this SSAI server. So
you'll have yeah, so you'll have like a proper trail of the advertiser, like a proper SPO scenario where you can go, well, this was a proper beacon signal sent via this chain, and I know exactly where it came from and how it worked, as opposed to what's happening now, where you have spoofing. And I don't know how big the problem is. I imagine it's pretty big because there's a lot of CPMs to be made. So, I mean, how far away are yourselves at Index and the IAB Tech Lab from solving this specific problem?
So I mean, the POCs have been set up and tested and proved out. So it's solved now. It's all about releasing the spec for public comments, and there's a number of things, because now it's about adoption, right? This only works if people adopt it, because if Publica and Index and Google are the only ones to do this, it's great, but it's not going to take the industry very far. So now I think becomes the really interesting part of making sure we educate the market on why this is important, also that we create a standard that's easy enough to adopt by everybody in the industry, and then actually getting it out there and getting people to adopt it. So that's how you get rid of SSAI spoofing, and that's how you get rid of the number one reason for fraud in the CTV space today. And by the way, I think that's a bit of an inaccurate statement, because the fraud isn't happening in the CTV space, right? It's basically fraudsters on the web pretending to be CTV devices.
Yes.
CTV environments are perfectly clean. They're just losing credibility because of it.
Right. And those three companies that you named are all important parts of the ecosystem. So I imagine Google on the DSP side, Index on the SSP side, and then you on the ad server SSAI server side, that completes the chain in terms of like how the CTV inventory is served and executed.
Yeah, it's particularly important to have an SSAI provider involved, but then you need you need an SSP, you need a DSP, you need a verification provider. So it's absolutely everybody. Not one company in the industry can do this alone, and that's where it's awesome to have the tech lab really to drive it.
Yeah. Well, Ben, I think we've more or less run out of time. I feel absolutely educated today. I didn't know any of this stuff today. This is fantastic. I'm sure our viewers will be really interested in this as well, because let's be honest, there's a lot of mystical stuff around CTV, but actually this is quite interesting to see how A, the ecosystem works, B, how it's served, and see how you're addressing some of the problems, the growing pains of CTV as it grows. You're just solving a few problems. So this is fantastic. Thank you, Ben, for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This is fun. I'm an ad tech geek, so it's always awesome to see that there are other ad tech geeks out there that enjoy this as much as I do. So thanks for having me on. You've
come to the right spot then. So, but really appreciate that, actually, because it was a good run through the ecosystem, and it looks like it's pretty exciting how you're using sort of like stuff around cryptography to solve problems, and it's good to see Index and yourselves and Google involved in that. So again, I look forward to our next chat, whenever that might be, but hopefully it might be in person, so when we get post-COVID. But thanks again, Ben.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much for having me, and yeah, let's do this again.
And that was Trader Talk TV, and we'll see you next time.